உலகெங்கிலும் தமிழரின் பிம்பம் உங்கள் டிவி.
Good afternoon, dear viewers. Welcome to CrossRoads on TVI. I'm Parthy Kandaval. Around this time of the year, post-secondary students begin to look for employment, whether it's for the summer or for full-time employment after graduation. However, some youth seek self-employment through the creation of their own business. Joining us in this discussion on youth entrepreneurship are three youth who've done exactly that. Murali Srinarayanathas, a long-standing and established entrepreneur. Vallavan Kugadasan, a fourth-year university student, has been running his own consulting business for the last year, and Ryan Nesharatnam, who's been running his own business for the last few years. Also, in our third segment, I had the opportunity to interview Dr. Pakyasodi Saranamuthu, the head of the Center for Policy Alternatives in Sri Lanka. He was here to address a seminar at the Osgood Law School about the implementation and accountability of human rights in Sri Lanka. We hope you find the interview informative about the context with Sri Lanka in the coming United Nations resolution in March. As always, please call us at 416-623-8100 to share your thoughts, questions, and ideas. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on our show on youth entrepreneurship. I thought it would be very useful and informative for our viewers to get different contexts and different aspects from the more established to emerging and medium level businesses. So, I think I'll start with you, Murali.
Sure.
Tell us a bit about yourself and your businesses.
Sure. I've been doing a variety of business in Asia. My family's been doing business in Asia, and I've started a few projects on my own as well. In Toronto, I'm in the film business, produce short films, documentaries. I have a software company here, and I'm also doing sales training and motivational training.
Mm-hmm. Val?
So I'm a fourth-year law and business student at Ryerson University. I'll be graduating this April. I've been running my own management consulting firm, the Ryerson Consulting Group, within the university. In addition to that, I founded the Ryerson Commerce and Government Association, an educational group to help students learn about regulatory law in Canada, as well as the Ryerson Consulting Initiative, which helps students become educated on the consulting industry. And that's a little bit about myself.
All right.
Well, for the past few years, we've been running a marketing / software development business. Pretty much, we found that there was a huge gap within marketing and the software technology sphere of things. So we wanted to bring those two together. And so we've been working with various clients across Toronto to help them market their business through the means of software and technology.
Okay. Entrepreneurship, goes without say, takes a lot of risk, and it's certainly not cut out for everyone. How did you know that entrepreneurship or taking that risk was part of your life mission, right?
Mm-hmm. I think for me it was, I really didn't have a choice, in the sense that I just didn't feel like I fit into anything else. Mm-hmm. I like the excitement of it. I like the change. I think if life was too steady, it would just be boring, Mm-hmm. Being an entrepreneur, you go through ups and downs, there's challenges. It's exciting. For me, it was just, I was lucky enough that my father was in business, mm-hmm. so I was able to see how that kind of lifestyle was. It appealed to me. Mm-hmm. And I had a good mentor, my father being in business before me. So, for me, it was just the right fit.
The right fit. Ryan?
While I was studying at Ryerson as well, I landed a position at Apple, Apple Computers. And I used to work at the Apple store, and they really drove sales and customer service as the number one important thing before selling the product, right? It was the customer experience that was more important to them than selling a $2,000 computer. And so that taught me how to deal with customers, how to deal with people. And at the end of the day, when you get to know and when you keep doing it on a consistent basis, you become a salesman. You become a real salesman where you care about the customer. And that's what really, I feel like that's what business is really about. There's a lot of obstacles that you'll come across while you're trying to deliver a product to a customer.
How did you know, like, so from that Apple experience, how did you know you wanted to do your own thing?
Well, basically, it kind of became a natural thing to keep selling, right? And actually, the story is that Apple, and it was around that 2007 recession time, and Apple's had to cut some part-time employees, and I was in school, so they cut me, and I was like, oh crap, I'm kind of unemployed. Jobs were like impossible to find, so I said, you know what, let's start something with the skills I have. So I had programming knowledge and stuff like that, so I just dove right in with one initial customer, and it just kept going.
It was good that you got that experience, I think. For me, I think sales is crucial in part of life in general, but I mean, especially in business. But Apple is a great company that does, their customer service is phenomenal. My sales experience was telemarketing.
Right.
And, people take that negatively, but it was a great way to, learn how to make a quick sale.
And another point in that is telemarketing is you consistently fail over and over and over again, so you have to perfect it.
Yeah.
And when you try to perfect it, you pretty much find yourself being the perfect salesperson at the end of it, right? So,
and you get a tough skin, like you learn to hear the word no and then keep going, right?
I completely agree with all this stuff. I think that good entrepreneurs are made out of adversity. I agree to the point where today we have very high unemployment within the youth. And a lot of students are kind of looking at entrepreneurship or being an entrepreneur as a new viable way of starting their own business, taking something that they know and have learned from school and putting that out in the real world and see how far they can make out with it, rather than working for an established company. And I think that gives them a lot of leverage. It teaches them some hard lessons, and it builds character. And I think that a lot of students are willing to take that route, and you can see some of that with us.
Val, you're in fourth year university, and not many students, or at least that I know of, start a business at that age, at a young age. How did you come into that role, and how did you figure, okay, this is something I want to pursue?
Well, putting aside the Ryerson Consulting Group for a moment, the entrepreneurship kind of mentality was something that I embraced when I left my workplace at WSIB, the Workplace Safety and Insurance Board. Being unemployed for 4 months, but wanting to, feed myself and as well as, provide some, income to, buy groceries and things of that nature, really meant that I had to get out of my comfort zone and find something that I was good at and something that could add value to the community and also bring income back into that lifestyle that I was used to. So I thought about it, and at that moment I realized there are certain things that I was good at, there's certain services that I can provide, and there's certain cap that the market's willing to pay for these services. What if I can gather a bunch of people, we can put 5 or 6 people together, create an organization that was providing these services to people who needed them in the downtown core at a competitive price, right?
Can you, for our viewers' benefit, can you just give us some examples of the work your business has done?
So we provide management consulting to small and medium-sized enterprises as well as large companies. So where people, companies such as like the Bank of Montreal or any other bank, or small entrepreneurs such as medium-sized software companies, if they needed some sort of competitive analysis or business plans or ways to move their business forward when they hit a capacity, we would look into that, analyze that, create those things for them, and provide value to them that way.
So what are some of the companies you've done work for?
So let's take a look at, so we've done work for one of the large 5 banks. I can't say who at the moment just because of confidentiality agreements. We've done work for people who are just starting up their businesses, people who have established businesses and are stuck at this kind of point where they can't move themselves forward, and established businesses that are looking for new opportunities and new ventures to move into. And we put ourselves at a competitive price point when you compare ourselves to big consulting firms.
Ryan, can you tell us of some of the work you've done and using examples of?
I'm similar. I'm pretty much similar to Murali. I have my business is in a large scale of things, and a few businesses actually. One of the main clients that we work for is Taiwan On. They own about 8 franchise stores in Toronto. The owner's been really cooperative with us in the sense that they were willing to wait and let us finish the project even though it took longer than it was expected. We released an online ordering system for them very recently, about 6.5 months ago, and it's done amazingly well. It's processed over 17,000 transactions. Revenue-wise, we're looking at about $1.5 to $2 million just online, which is a huge number that they didn't even expect and I didn't expect. We're in the digital signage sphere of business as well.
And I think we have some pictures to show from that, but
yeah.
Go on, tell us about that.
Digital signage, well, I was, when we were developing our software, we were developing something for Hoop Sports Bar initially. It was a digital signage platform to show their products and their new sales, advertisements, stuff like that. And I looked at this and compared it to CP24. And I saw this idea where I'm like, hey, people are going into banks and they're waiting in banks and they're just watching these screens while they wait. What is it about CP24 that works, and what is it about regular digital signage that you see regular ads not working? Right? People don't pay attention to those screens. So I developed with a few people. I developed a platform that pretty much looks similar to CP24, and we placed it across stores across the GTA in takeout stores, doctors' offices, stuff like that. And pretty much now people tune into ads as well as content-based stuff like news and weather and music videos and stuff like that.
And we just put up some pictures of your product in York Cinemas.
Right.
Can you tell us that?
York Cinemas was one of the newer challenges that we faced because it was a unique project in the sense that it was directly built for movie theaters. When we initially took on the project, we knew that it was a project that we weren't just going to sell to one client, we were going to sell to many clients. So we built a back end that would support a huge range of things like say if a movie got sold out, similar to what you would see at Cineplex. Whenever you go to Cineplex, all the digital screens, they're controlled by a local server. We took it to another level. We built it off of cloud. So we can pretty much control these screens in Dubai if we wanted to. And it was tough because the technology that Cineplex uses was PC based, but we took it to another level and took it to Android so that we can minimize costs while putting our software on smaller and more efficient devices.
Right. Really, you mentioned earlier you have businesses in Asia and also in Toronto. Can you tell us, to give our audience the context of where you come from?
Sure. My family's been doing business in India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Malaysia for years. My father since before I was born. And I started working there in maybe my 20s, or around 2000. We're in a variety of businesses there, travel agency, marketing, real estate. One of the more recent initiatives that I started on my own is a social business. Professor Muhammad Yunus, who won the Nobel Prize for microfinance. He's from Bangladesh. We have
the picture with that.
Yeah, he's from Bangladesh. He started an initiative called Social Business, which is creating a business where you invest in the company and you get the return from that investment, but any revenues that are generated after go into the expansion or development of that business, and it addresses a social cause. So that's been wonderful in terms of course, the networking. We're the only other company other than Professor Yunus's Grameen that's doing social business in Bangladesh, although there are many around the world. The Queen of Spain came to the last conference, who's a really big promoter of social businesses. So it's nice to get into business where you're making money, but where you're contributing to society as well is a big thing.
You all mentioned the example of adversity, and facing adversity not only strengthens your resolve but also creates opportunity. What are some of, you talked about in telemarketing, having the no, being said no, played a role. What were some of the other challenges you faced or pitfalls of going on your own? What are?
Go ahead.
I think a big lesson is, first of all, I think you really have to be crazy if you're in business. You really need to have that passion so that you can overcome those obstacles, right? I think if a person's not passionate and crazy about it, they're just going to give up, and that's generally what happens to people who can't handle that life, right? You have to be crazy. When it comes to obstacles or things that I've faced, is being a business owner versus being a business operator. A business operator, you know, generally, and seeing my father and in our community, especially the immigrant lifestyle, you think, I got to work as much as possible to make as much as I can to provide for my family. And that's true. You definitely need to work hard in your business.
So was it a work-life balance that was the challenge?
Exactly. Yeah, like you don't want to be at your business 24 hours a day, you know, picking up calls during dinner and things like that, right? It's the difference between being an operator and an owner, where you can sit back and let the business run.
Some of the earlier challenges you're going to face before you get to that stage of established businesses, the fact that your age is going to come into a factor. If you're providing management consulting to some of these high-end firms, they want to know, why is this 22-year-old sitting in this boardroom with me? What is the credibility that they have? What are some of the past projects that you've done? Where can you tell me the past value that you've added to your previous clients, where I can trust you enough to do this?
So for some of the younger people maybe watching today,
Yeah.
how would you help them address that age factor? If they want to start a business at 20, 21, and they finding age as a barrier, how did you overcome that?
Okay, so I think the first and foremost way to overcome that barrier, if you have absolutely no other experience or you haven't worked for any established firms, is to start doing some volunteer work, but volunteer work that you would almost think, this work I would be charging money for, but in this circumstance, because I have no experience, I'm going to do this work for free and put this on my resume as some sort of credentials that I'm going to have to
So you started doing the consulting for free. You're giving out your service.
Start doing pro bono consulting. See what the reactions you get from that. See the feedback that you get from that. See the value that you've added to the company. And I think from that point forward, even the people that you've provided free work to will realize that you can't carry on providing this free work for them, and that they like this work and they're willing to pay for it.
And you, Ryan?
Very similar to what he said. Age is a huge factor. I'm just a year older than you. I started when I was 19, and as I was growing, I could see the amount of people that I approached, and they would say, "Oh, well, you know, how can I trust you? What have you done?" Then I realized that it wasn't really about age; it was about portfolio, right? And I took that as a challenge, and I approached several people on several occasions, and Taiwan was one of them. On several occasions, I said, "You know what? We've got to do this. You have no idea how much I can help your business." And finally, he said, "Yeah, sure. You know what? I'm going to give you a shot." And sure, I did.
It took persistence?
It took persistence. Of course, it's persistence. It's never giving up. Business is never giving up. With multi-ad, we're at version 5.1. But that's 5.1 of failures. 5.1 is the one I didn't fail at yet, right? It's the version that didn't fall. I failed all that way. Maybe 2 years I've been failing at making a stable system, but finally we cracked the code, and I could probably say we're one of the only Android-based digital signage solutions in Toronto that have stable software. We worked that hard. Our programmers worked day and night to get this done.
On the topic of challenges, there's no question family plays a role. There's a very successful Sri Lankan Tamil businessman in Europe, Ratishan Yoganathan, along with his partners, have built up this corporation, Labara, which is a telecommunications giant in Europe. And recently he gave a speech at a Tamil event in London. I wanted to play a clip from that. We can play that clip.
He said, after all, it's good that you didn't become a pilot. I said, yes. And to me, at that point in time, it has taken me 8 years to convince my own father that doing business isn't bad after all. And at that point in time, the bar was generating over $500 million revenue. So when you go back home with your ideas, and if somebody puts you down, let it be your parents, or your friends, or close relatives, or whoever it may be. Take it on your shoulders. It happens. The things that they don't know, they cannot support you with. And obviously, with good intentions, they try to guide us. They try to educate us. They try to get, advise us to get into good employment so we can be secure. That's all fine. But if you have a dream, I want you to follow that.
So, really may not apply to you, Murli, but Val and Ryan, how does the challenges faced by family who, from a traditional conservative point of view, they want you to go into, a normal, steady career as opposed to the risk of entrepreneurship?
That's a big challenge that you're going to face. You're going to get a lot of resistance from your parents, especially in a route that they're not familiar with, and a route that you probably are not familiar with, and you're experimenting at this point in time.
How did you find it personally?
So I found it difficult. It's hard to explain, first of all, what you may be doing in this entrepreneurship venture to your parents, because they're just unfamiliar with it from the get-go. But more so than that, I think when they start to understand that this is something that you're good at, this is something that you're passionate about, I think something has to give way at that point. But at any given time, I think having that support from your family, from your parents, from your spouse, if you have one, is very important, because you are going to be spending a lot of time at work, especially in the startup stage. You are going to be doing a lot of pro bono work. You are going to be, doing some rework for your clients at like a free cost. And that comes at a price, right? Mm-hmm. To establish yourself, you really have to have that support.
Okay. It's time we're going to revisit that question when we come back from a short break. Stay tuned, dear viewers. Welcome back, dear viewers. On CrossRoads today, we're discussing youth entrepreneurship with Murli, a more established entrepreneur, Vallabhan, an emerging entrepreneur, and Ryan, who's a relatively established medium-level entrepreneur. Just before the break, we're talking about the role families have, not only as personal in our personal lives, but also in your professional and your business lives. Ryan, how have the challenges faced by family played a role?
One of the main challenges, I would say, would be family. As a young entrepreneur, as a young person, I understand my father had different dreams. He would make a nameplate called Dr. Ryan Ashratnam when I was like 12 years old, and I would lead on his false dreams of saying, yeah, Dad, I'm going to be a doctor for sure. But the truth is, as much as my dad would say, you should probably go get a job and do what normal people do, like go get a job, get married at 28, and live the rest of your life, working for somebody. I decided to, go and start a business and do it differently. The first year, he's my accountant. My father's my accountant. He's probably the best accountant you can hire, because he's consistently watching that account, seeing what's going on. But for the first year, he would say, "Hey, Ryan, you only made like $22,000 this year. Like, you could make more working at my factory, right?" So it was a consistent challenge with my dad saying, "You know what? I have to keep going. This is, it's not about the money. It's about the challenge, and it's about achieving something. And once you achieve it, the money will come, right?" I had a mentor named Warren Sindham. He's a land developer, and he used to tell me, don't chase the money, chase the success. Money will follow, right? And that's something that's really stuck with me, and that's something I preached to my dad. I said, "Don't worry about the money right now. Let me keep chasing my dream, and the money will follow." And the last year's has proven him completely wrong. And now he's more supportive. And I could see that even though he would say, "Ryan, go back to school and get your master's or do something," inside he'd still be really happy that I'm getting these deals, and he's really interested as what is Ryan up to.
That's interesting. Along with these successes, I'm sure there are moments where you felt humbled, and there are mistakes to be made where you would have if you get an opportunity to redo things, you may have. Have those opportunities occurred where you felt I could have done things differently?
Yeah, you mentioned you showed the video of the Labara owner, and just actually even a few months ago, I was running a telco in the UK, competing against Labara and Leica, and we were doing really well. It's a very competitive business, but a very lucrative business. And but I ended up, my heart wasn't in it. Not only just with the business, but being in London, and I could have done much better than we did. We ended up selling the business and not for as much of a profit that I could have gotten. So, but you know, for me, it was the right decision because I wanted to come back to Canada, and it was a lifestyle choice for me. But would I go back and change it again? I mean, I think I would have stuck with it longer, perhaps, and try to fight a bit more for a higher profit. But you know, there's successes and failures in life and in business, and I don't think you should be afraid to let things go sometimes. I think that's an important lesson in life.
I completely agree with this. I think one of the biggest things that I look back was some of our first clients, you know, or some of the first people we were pitching to, where some of them were very successful. We had a few others that did not give us a call back, did not, you know, acknowledge us after that. Even after multiple different meetings with them, when we were very close to signing that project, we finally, you know, for whatever reason, ended up dropping this client. And I totally take the blame for that. And I think that was a sharp learning lesson. And looking back, I think some of the things that we could have done were looking and seeing like where the market is, who are our competitors. I think early on when you start, you don't think about any of these things, and you think that what you're providing is probably the best in the world, right? And I think that that's a fair assumption to make, but you should kind of take a more holistic approach, and that's a learning lesson, right? When you lose your first client, you start to think about what are the big mistakes that you made that could have prevented you from could have prevented the situation from happening. And I think that I took away a lot from that first client loss. Yeah.
So the loss ended up being a valuable lesson.
Oh, of course.
Right?
I don't think I would change anything about what's happened.
But have there been instances you felt humbled?
There have been instances where, yeah, I would go back and say, you know, I could have did this differently. I should have did this differently. But the lessons that we learn in business, there's no school, there's no business school out there, there's no university that would be able to teach us these lessons that we've learned through business. And those failures are what have taught me to pursue that next step, to keep going.
Do you think it's inevitable that you fail and then that's part of the success formula?
If you never fail, you would never know, right? So.
And there's, you know, you're talking about business schools. I mean, they do case studies. You know, I think one of the famous ones is Tylenol or something, and I remember there's a case study about Tylenol, and the CEO recalled everything, and it was this big deal. But you go through those case studies fine, and you learn what people have done, but it's like the difference between, you know, someone telling you don't touch the stove versus you going and touching it and burning yourself. Like you really learn the lesson there, and the faster you're able to do that, the more successful you'll become.
Changing shift, you know, in our community, there's a lot of networking events. You know, as entrepreneurs, do you find the energy you put into attending a networking event, does it pay off? Does it work? Does networking work?
I think you really.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I think you really have to work a room, right? Like once you're going in there, you shouldn't have the mentality that you're going to come out with any sort of potential business deals. But you're going to go in there and you're pitching your value proposition. You know, you have your elevator pitch, right? When you're talking to people and you have 10 seconds to get their attention and remember you in essence, it's not going to be by your business card, but it's going to be by your demeanor and what you present to them and what value they see in you at any particular networking event. So going in and coming out of networking events, I don't think the deal is like this next week, you know, after this networking event, we're gonna make a deal happen. It's, you know, this next 6 months, this next year. Is this person going to remember me when they have a problem? Right?
Networking. The biggest mistake I probably made is with networking, because in the beginning I didn't value it. Right now, every networking opportunity I get, I jump on it, because you never know who this person might know.
Okay.
Right? Even if
So it may not be the contact
exactly,
themselves.
it might not even be that person you're looking for, but you don't know who they might know who can help you at the end. Right now, I'm at a stage in business where I'm trying to pursue that large corporate sector. You know, I'm trying to get into that larger business where I can sell it to one client who will disperse my product around 4,000 or 5,000 areas. You know what I mean? So the problem is getting those contacts and getting to that place is the hardest part. You can't just send an email to a random contact and expect him to reply to you. You must know someone in there to help you out.
Yeah. Just to go on, networking is key. For me, a personal experience, I was in a conference, we have a conference in Vienna for the social business, and before that we kind of, my partners and I, we traveled to different places around the area in Europe. And I had met a friend just casually, who ended up being an advisor to the president of the Republic of Macedonia.
Oh, wow.
And I was talking about my training and motivational and sales, and how I'm, trying to focus more on the youth. And so they took a look at some of my training and some of the videos that I have. And so I've been invited to do a training that the president hosts a summit every year for youth entrepreneurs in Macedonia, and so I'm going to be lecturing there. So that's a fantastic. Yeah, I never imagined I was just meeting this friend for dinner. I never imagined that an opportunity would come
about. Connected to this concept of networking is, within our community, we may have expectations that those who've made it in the community will help us out. There's a very successful entrepreneur in the United States, an Indian guy called Gurbash Jahal. He's made hundreds of millions starting up different software and internet companies. So he addresses that point with Indian entrepreneurs. So I wanted to play that clip, and then we can speak to it. Clip 2.
Starting off, it is you get ready to get beaten up and slammed. I thought people would help me. I thought because I was Indian, the Indian entrepreneurs would help me. I thought, because I had a business that was making money, people would want to know about it. That doesn't work. And I think the dynamic that changed for me was realizing that if you change the table around and you make people realize that there's something in it for them, or the perception there's something in it for them, the conversation changes.
What has been your most humbling moment?
I would say the first one being
in that clip,
my father.
Gurbash talking about the Indian community. He thought he was going to get all this help, but it really didn't happen. How have you found our community in terms of assisting your entrepreneurial ambitions?
I work a lot with our community, and a lot with the client, the business owners in our community. I think I feel like our community did give back. Yes, there was something in it for them. Of course, there's always going to be something in it for them. It's business. They're always looking to see how they can advance their business as well. But the key difference was they gave me an opportunity. Right? They didn't have to give me an opportunity. They could have went and pursued a larger corporation or a larger marketing company and got it done that way. But they saw, okay, this guy looks like he has some potential, and they gave me those initial opportunities, which did help me inevitably advance my business. Right? So, our community does really help young entrepreneurs go to that next step.
Val, your business is a little different.
It is a little bit different. So although I don't have as much experiences with our community, particularly advancing my business, the community that you surround yourself in is something that you're going to have to add value to, right? And I think that goes back into the networking conversation, right? When you leave that networking seminar, or you address people within your community and ask them for help, what value do you bring to the table? It doesn't have to be now, but sometime in the future, right? And I think people do look to advance their own business objectives, and I think that's a crucial part of being an entrepreneur.
On that topic, how have you found having mentors helpful in your ambition?
So I'd like to talk about this a lot, because one of my favorite mentors is Jeff Dennis, and he's a partner at Faskin Martineau, which is the third largest law firm in Canada. And in my time in working there, my entrepreneurship kind of led to meeting him, or being an entrepreneur within the firm led to a chance meeting with him. And from that point forward, he's been a good mentor to me, even though he has a lot on his plate. And I think some of the crucial lessons that he's taught me of being an entrepreneur has helped me grow, the Ryerson Consulting Group. Some of the advice that he's provided, some of the networks that he's kind of, established on his own and has connected me to has been very vital. And I think those are some key things. And talking about community and moving back to that topic, there's value that you add back, right? So there's services that Fasky Martineau as a law firm can't provide, but a firm like ours, a management consulting firm, can provide. And having a close relationship and working with somebody of that nature for a good year, you kind of see what they're up to, see what their talents are. And I think he saw that, there's a lot of value in outsourcing some work to this kid. And I think that that really has helped us a lot.
And Merle, again, you mentioned your dad just played an obvious mentorship role in your life. How
Yeah, definitely. He's a very positive force. Anyone who knows him, he's a risk taker. He really goes for his dreams. I remember the first big project that he did. He produced Voodoo, which is well-known film in the South Indian film industry, actually the Indian film industry. And to me, when I was about maybe 6 or 7, and to me that was normal, and I was like, oh, your father doesn't produce movies either, like it was just weird to me. So I was very lucky to be around that environment, because he showed me that you can dream something and you can make that dream a reality. He's the first person that showed me that. But just to address on the community thing, were you at the chamber, recent chamber meeting? I'm not sure.
No, I wasn't.
No? Okay, well, I recently went to this...
Canadian Ottawa Chamber of Commerce?
Exactly. And there it was fantastic. I've always felt that our community has supported us, and especially young entrepreneurs, and that was another prime example of all these, the older generation saying, go up and encouraging you to promote your business and things. I'm not sure if I agree with him on a community not being able to help you. I think it's your perception, and like these guys said, everyone has something to offer. I think if you go with the right approach, then you can benefit from that.
All right. In terms of the future, how do you see yourself in 5 years and 10 years, presumably?
That is one of the hardest questions to answer, because you never know where things are going to turn. Today I might be an ordinary, regular business. Tomorrow, Microsoft might want to buy out my digital signage sector and say, here's $100 million, take it and go. I don't know. I'm dreaming probably, but it's hard to say. But from the plan that I personally have, I want my business to grow step by step. I want to be there along every step of the way, and just move forward and probably have a few guys working for me.
But do you feel that entrepreneurship is something you want to continue for the rest of your life, or do you think we've come to a level of success that you feel comfortable with? You want to balance your life, or do you feel like it's a driving thing you want to keep doing?
It's a driving thing.
I think it's a driving thing, but in a different way. You can achieve multiple layers of success even within the same business that you may have been operating for the last 20, 30 years, right? And you may plateau at a certain level of financial success, but you could establish different successes within the industry. And I don't think all things are related to financial kind of matters, but I think that that's one of the kind of successes that you may want to achieve in addition to other things.
Yeah, for me it's a lifestyle, so I wouldn't want to change anything at all about it. 5, 10, 20, 30 years, I still want to be doing the same thing. I wouldn't change it for the world.
I don't think you can give up on being an entrepreneur or change your mind that suddenly I'm not an entrepreneur. I think good entrepreneurs will always continue to be good entrepreneurs, because we don't see that as a thing that when you wake up and say, today I want to be an entrepreneur, it is just what you are.
Okay. It's time to wrap up, but before we leave, I'm sure there are a lot of young Tamil kids who are watching the show and have these dreams and see a lot of strong role models who've created success, such as yourselves. What advice would you give them as a parting
Find something you're passionate about. I think doing an apprenticeship or volunteering in something that you think you might be passionate about before you start a business is very helpful. So it reduces your risks, and not to give up on your dreams, right?
Well, I would say be persistent. I think the biggest thing that is lacking is persistence in a lot of youth. If they try something for a few months and it doesn't work, you tend to have a feeling that you may want to give up or pursue something else. I think pushing through that extra mile, jumping over that mountain, and when you land at the bottom, you can land at your feet, believing in that and seeing how far you can truly go, especially when you don't have anything in terms of, monetary kind of, you need that money coming in. It's so much safer to get that stable job. When you can go past all those things and you can still drive yourself and motivate yourself and be persistent, I think you can be successful.
I think the power of an idea is one of the key things that we overlook. When I started my business, it was the initial idea that kept me going, right? And once you get that idea, let it branch out, let it become something, and just never give up, right? And keep going from there.
Excellent advice. Once again, thank you, gentlemen, for coming on our show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And dear viewers, earlier this week, I had the opportunity to interview Dr. Pakiasodi Sarudamattu, who is a leading human rights advocate, as well as the head of the Center for Policy Alternatives in Sri Lanka. He was here at the Osgoode Law School to address a seminar on implementing and accountability of human rights in Sri Lanka. It was an interesting interview, especially because of the upcoming United Nations Human Rights Resolution against Sri Lanka in March. Here's my interview with him, which will follow right after the break. Dear GVOI viewers, we're joined with Dr. Pakiasodi Sarudamattu, who's one of the key speakers at York University's human rights event on implementing human rights and human rights accountability in Sri Lanka. Dr. Sarudamattu, can you give us a bit of context about today's events, its purpose and its meaning?
I think, today's events focused on the question of accountability in Sri Lanka and the current human rights situation. It's taking place in a context in which the Human Rights Council in Geneva is about to begin its sessions, and there is a very strong likelihood of another American-sponsored resolution on Sri Lanka, where the wording might well be tougher, and the resolution itself might be tougher in terms of calling on the government of Sri Lanka to take demonstrable action to implement the recommendations of the LLRC, and also to have demonstrable progress in terms of accountability.
Given last year's resolution in Geneva at the United Nations in March again, how far has Sri Lanka gone in implementing their own LLRC resolutions?
Unfortunately, not very far, in my opinion. The government claims to have made some kind of progress, but it doesn't amount to too much. There hasn't been any demonstrable progress in terms of a pursuit of a political settlement. There hasn't been any demonstrable progress in terms of the reduction of the military presence and the reduction of militarization of the North and East. Even in terms of symbolic questions like the singing of the national anthem in both languages, that's a simple thing, a symbolic thing, but with tremendous significance, that has not been done. And one can go on like that with a huge list of stuff where real progress has to be demonstrated. At the same time, sadly, yes, one can talk about infrastructure, one can talk about return of people to their original areas of habitation, but still problems with regard to housing. But at the same time, one can also say that added to the negatives, if you like, must also be the collapse of the rule of law, which has been highlighted by the process of impeachment of the Chief Justice.
You mentioned that there's an expectation that the U.S. will have a tougher resolution. Where are the clues regarding that? Have they said anything, or where is the expectation coming from?
The expectation is coming from statements that have been on public record, that not much has happened in terms of real progress. Secondly, also statements with regard to the impeachment and the impact that has with regard to governance and reconciliation and unity in particular.
Last year, many of us Last year, many of us were, in a way, surprised when India came out in support of the resolution, especially given their, I guess, support throughout the years for the Sri Lankan government. What is your thinking regarding India's role in this coming March resolution?
My expectation is that India's role has not changed. India will vote for a resolution on Sri Lanka. India notes, I think, that there hasn't been a great deal of demonstrable progress, in particular with regard to a search for a political settlement. And I would therefore say that India is probably quite disappointed with the current Sri Lankan government, because Sri Lankan government has made a lot of rhetorical commitments and pledges, none of which have been redeemed.
Dear viewers, thank you for joining us this week at Crossroads. You just watched a brief interview with Dr. Pakyasoli Saranamathu about the context in which Sri Lanka is going into at the United Nations and the human rights resolution against them. In March, when the United Nations comes to have their Human Rights Convention, we'll be covering that in detail here at Crossroads. Thank you once again for tuning into Crossroads. I'm your host, Parthi Kandaval. Have a great week.
தமிழரின் பிம்பம் உங்கள் டிவி.